Lollygaggers, it's another week. And we've got a lot to talk about here. We've got week 3, the NFL season. We are going to talk a little baseball playoffs on top as well. But first, let me bring in one of my co-hosts, Samantha Bunten. Samantha, how you doing?
Doing okay. It's been a rough baseball week. It's tough out there in Dean's land, but we're hanging in there. We're hanging in there. Pennant races are, they're hard on the soul.
They really are, especially when you have extra innings and doubleheader days.
And an ump show to boot. We had an ump show.
Oh, of course.
Tuesday night. So.
You can't have a pennant race without that. And see, Irby, this is not something that we have to deal with right now. The Rangers are very much well out of anything at the moment. But I do remember what these days were like.
Yes, do remember what these days are like. Definitely not the same level of what Samantha and her wonderful DNs are dealing with. But personally, down the street from me, Frisco, the Frisco Rough Riders, Double-A baseball, won game 1 of their playoff series. So, yes, I'm well aware that Double-A playoffs is nowhere near as exciting as the real deal. But since I don't have the real deal, like you said, Bo, I'm gladly jumping on this Double-A bandwagon. Well, not a bandwagon. We got a lot of games. But still, loving Double-A playoffs.
You got to do what you got to do. All right, so let's get into this. Samantha, we have a lot to go over today. So let's start with the new playoff system before we get into some of these tight races, because this, I think it's important for everyone to have a little bit of a primer, a little bit of a recap of how things have changed. Starting off, and this is important in some of these races we're about to talk about, there is no more game 163. There are now tiebreakers, very similar to the NFL. So there will not be a game 163 anymore. I guess they physically just couldn't do it, because now you have 3 division winners, 3 wild card teams. Your top 2 division winners have a bye. They missed the wild card round. 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. The winner, and this is another interesting thing here. When in the past, the seeding mattered about where you went next. This is very much now a bracket system, very much like the NCAA tournament. So 3 and 6, they'll play each other. The winner, be at 3 or 6, goes on to play 1. No, 2. Then 4 or 5 goes to play 1. So we've got a bracket now. We don't have a game 163. Is there anything that I missed here, Samantha? I think that pretty well covers everything that's going on now.
Yeah, I think you got it. And I'll just throw this out there for, there's two real pennant races that are still going, and that's the AL Central and the NL East. And in the AL Central, with reference to the elimination of game 163, the Guardians own all the tiebreakers, so that's not going to come into play here. The spot will go to the Guardians in the event of a tie. And in the NL East, I don't think it's decided yet. I'm not totally sure about that, Mets versus Braves. So that one, we might still have tiebreakers in play in the regular season. The AL Central, it's over. Should there be a tie there, the spot will go to the Guardians.
You brought up the 2 races that we should talk about here, so let's start with that National League East. Both the Mets and the Braves have clinched playoff spots, Samantha. Mets are clinging to that lead, so I guess who's it going to be?
Oh, well, which one are we talking about now? You want to do the NL first? Okay.
Yeah, National League East.
All right, so we're starting in the NL instead of the AL. Okay. This is tough. It's hard to fade the Mets at this point. They have the easiest schedule to finish out the season of anybody who remains in playoff contention. So that's something to take into account, but they've also had a rougher time. And by the way, 3 games left still to play against Atlanta. So that is not going to be over in terms of tiebreakers, should they be needed. Would not be until the 2nd of October when that series concludes. So that's still out there, just to wrap that up. But yeah, I have a hard time saying this won't go to the Mets, but I mean, that's mostly like a Max Scherzer, Jacob deGrom based assumption, and the fact that they have been out in front for so long. But we don't know who owns the tiebreaker. The Braves are only one game back. The easier schedule matters, but the way the Braves are playing right now, that's not necessarily how it's going to go.
Irby, how about you? Who do you think is going to come out of the East here? Is it the Mets? Is it the Braves? Who's going to win that one?
It's funny. We talked recently about this, and I was all in Braves and wanting them to do it. But no, I kind of leaning towards the Mets here just because of the lead in hand that they have, the remaining schedule, just too many things like that. I know it's one game. Yes, I'm well aware one game is nothing, but still, it is a lead, and you've got 3 with Oakland, 3 with Washington, and 2 with Miami mixed around those 3 games in Atlanta. So looking pretty good. To answer y'all, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt earlier, but the tiebreaker has not been decided. The Mets lead 9-7. So Atlanta basically has to sweep that series to get the tiebreaker. So still possible with Atlanta. But deGrom and Scherzer are both scheduled to pitch in that series, so not looking great for the Braves there. So, yeah, I think we make a decision right now. I think the Mets will hold on and win this division.
All I can think about here is how upset some people are going to be, and I'm one of them, when you have a tiebreaker invoked that would have been a game 163, because we all love game 163. It's what we want every year. We're chaos goblins, right, Samantha? Like, we want the game 163. I guess with this new system, though, they just couldn't get that in.
I'm kind of sorry to see game 163 go. I think it's kind of awesome. From a selfish perspective, I will say that this year, because I am a fan of one of the teams that could potentially end up in that situation. I mean, fortunately for the Guardians with a 5-game lead, and what I should mention when we talk about these leads here, this is Wednesday night that we're recording this, so subject to change by the time you guys get a hold of this, but pretty comfortable lead, but certainly don't want to assume anything as a Cleveland fan. I have learned that. Don't ever want to do that. But I would not personally want to be involved in game 163. Like, those are the ones you want if you don't have a dog in the fight, right? It's like exciting playoff games. Like, sure, those are great if you don't have a rooting interest. When it's your team, you just want to see a beatdown, right? Like, I don't need that stress. So this year, I am glad there is no game 163, just in case I might end up involved in one. But generally speaking, yes, as a chaos goblin and a sort of a just absolutely devoted fan of just like incredibly exciting baseball, I will miss game 163.
So, Irby, how about you? You going to miss 163?
Yes and no. No, as in the rooting interest I have is pretty much for Joey Gallo in that. So I never seem to get a W in 163. So on that side, I guess I'm okay with it. But the rooting interest, no, I will miss that because it is fun. We've had some wonderful last day games, the head-to-head matchups, watching multiple games at once, which we will still get in with 162, knowing tiebreakers at the time. It's unfortunate, that Mets-Braves series would have been wonderful if that was the last one. That's not the case. We may start seeing that in the schedules going forward, something that the NFL does really well, where it's not just the tiebreaker, but it's like, the game matters too, and here it's going to be a head-to-head. So that will definitely add to the finality of the season, and I hope baseball realizes that. And we get that last week, the last 3 series of matchups that really have major playoff implications. So, yes, 163 go, and I think we will get just as many wonderful day 162s as well.
Okay, Samantha, let's talk AL Central. You've mentioned it here a couple times with the division lead that the Guardians have, and I certainly understand not wanting to call it just from a superstitious standpoint. I think we both share the same superstitions about things like that, so I get it. I understand. But I have really one question about this race because it was the White Sox. It was supposed to be the White Sox all offseason, all spring training. It was White Sox, and here we are. Last couple weeks of the season, the DNs are 5 games up. What's going on here? What happened? Is it as simple as the managers involved? Is it really that easy?
I mean, that's the easy answer, right? I don't think that's true. I mean, I do think that Tony La Russa has cost his team wins, and he's not managing right now, and it's not helping them. So that would be a good argument against that. And certainly Terry Francona is one of those rare managers who isn't just a guy who you want to stay out of the way, who generates wins. But mostly what I think this is about is I think a lot of people, we were a lot higher on the Deans than most people, and maybe that's just because I'm a Deans fan and I talked you guys into it, but we were much higher on them than the projection systems and then most baseball analysts were coming into the season. But I don't know that anybody necessarily expected this, although we did think it would be the Deans and the White Sox. I think most people thought it would be the White Sox and the Twins, and we were like, nope, the Twins are going to crater. If they don't have like a 12-game lead in June, like they will never be able to keep up. And they're now 8 games back. They're pretty much out of the race. So I feel pretty comfortable saying that. So we're back to Deans and White Sox. And the reason this happened is because, they're sure the Deans are better than anybody expected them to be. And I think a lot of people counted them out because they thought they were too young and too inexperienced. And the White Sox have had a lot of injuries, and they've also lost a lot of baseball games that they should win. They are a little bit poorly constructed. They've had a lot of defensive issues. They seem to be a team that kind of can't get right once they sort of start to melt down. We've seen some tantrumy stuff that isn't great, and that I do put back to the manager because I think you can kind of get a handle on that if you're a good leader. But in the end, I mean, there's a huge component of this. This is really just about the Deans. Like when you listen to the players on this team talk, they say things like, it's because we love each other so much. We never give up. We don't want to let each other down. And we've seen these like incredible performances from these guys who are called up from AAA to make spot starts, who end up pitching. Connor Pilkington threw 5 2/3 no-hitter the other day just because they needed innings out of somebody. And I think when teams gel like that, and guys just kind of step up because they don't want to let each other down. And it's really, I mean, it's wonderful for the fans and wonderful for the players involved. But I also think that often translates into wins, especially the kind of wins that the Guardians are getting, which are these sort of late inning. They've tied their record from 1995, a team that was notorious for come from behind extra inning wins at 25 now. And I think it's 27 actually at this point. Most, of course, in Major League Baseball this season. They just won't quit. They won't go away. It's driving all their divisional opponents crazy. And it's a pretty good formula for ultimately winning a division. So right now, again, like I said, I don't want to assume anything, but for them to lose the division at this point, even if they were to drop the next 2 head-to-head games between the Deans and the White Sox, it would still be pretty difficult for the White Sox to come back. The Deans have an easier schedule. Heading out the back, they got 6 games against Kansas City to close out the season. And even without that, it's just a lot of ground to make up with so few games left.
Oh, I get it. Believe me, I get it. And so does Irby. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Actually, it may have been that long ago now. But we very much remember a 3-game lead with 3 games to play and getting swept out of that division. So believe me, we get it. Irby, how about you? How you feeling about this AL Central?
Well, it's an enjoyment. And again, I thank Samantha for bringing us along on this wonderful ride. I didn't appreciate Saturday night. I was told that win would end soon. I had to stay up past 1 o'clock in the morning. Yes, you had to stay up later, but 15 innings. Come on, guys. But I appreciate it. It was a good win. It's a great game.
You dragged him into our cult. Late night tribe. I should have made you come to the Zoom last night, but then you would have been up until 1 a.m. again last night. So last night being Tuesday, I keep forgetting to not the live show anymore.
I didn't want to do it last night. I was afraid. I was like, here we go again.
Because this
you're gonna, and it's a wonderful. It's funny. The next morning, my wife got on to me and saying I love my wife to death. She's just not a huge baseball fanatic, so she was getting on to me of like, well, but why didn't you just go to bed? Because you can't stop watching. Like, it's impossible. Like, I'm finding things to do to keep myself awake while watching. It was great. It was wonderful. I'm so thankful for that. I'm also thankful for the Twins playing their part in this of not giving a crap and doing like always, starting off the wonderful season and then going, cool. I mean, the Twins are like a 800-meter runner who's running a 5K. Like, great, awesome, you just ran out. Like, there's a whole long race here to go, and So appreciate the Twins playing their part. But yeah, this is a fun little run to the end, and we've learned everything, and it kind of goes the same thing of what I just talked about with the Braves and the Mets. The schedule favors the Mets. The Mets have that 1-game lead as of right now. That doesn't mean anything. Like, you still have to get the job done. The schedule favors the Indians here. After these 2 more games, the White Sox, they've got 6 with Minnesota, and they've got 3 in San Diego, a San Diego team that's fighting for the playoffs. So, they should get in and everything, but still, you're playing playoff teams, whereas, like you mentioned, Cleveland's got their final 6 against the Kansas City team that's going to be playing youngsters, just getting time in.
You know what's actually just flat out embarrassing here is that Saturday night when you guys were up till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning watching baseball, I didn't even make it through the late football games. I made it to halftime. And then I was out cold while you guys were watching all this fun baseball stuff. That is embarrassing for me, but
if it makes you feel any better, I mean, my husband also fell asleep, and he is a Indians fan, not quite as dedicated as me, but he also fell asleep in the middle of this. So he did make it a little later. He made it to the start of the game, but we also had college football to contend with that day. That's my husband and I are Penn State alums, so that worked out okay for us. You guys, Longhorns folk, you guys win on Saturday? You guys won, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay, so
they obliterated UT San Antonio. Second half game.
Yeah, Bo and my husband were worn out by college football, and had to call it an early night, and Irby and I were left holding the bag for late night baseball, as it were.
The stories the next morning were quite entertaining, though.
He was kind of mad at me for dragging him down with me. He was like, I'm sorry, man.
Oh, I can understand that.
Oh yeah, no, it's a wonderful feeling of like it is seething anger, and I am so thankful that you made me go through it because of how it ended. Now, had it ended with a loss, then I'm going, hey, I'm not going to be on the morning call because of you. Bye.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing with these, right? Like, we get overly invested in these late night games, and it's like, it's so much fun when you come out on the right end of it, but it's like 20 times more brutal when you don't, and you just wake up the next day and you're like, why do I feel like I went on a bender last night? Like, oh man, I got wrecked by an extra inning baseball game that I didn't even win. Oh man, so tough. Let's not have any more of those. I'm good. I've seen enough. Like, just decisive regulation wins, 9 innings is plenty, thanks. I love baseball, but I do not need free baseball right now. Just shut it down.
So much for the Ghost Runner cutting down on the game times, right?
It doesn't do any good when the Ghost Runner just comes home and then comes home again and then comes home again. For both teams. I mean, the Indians had to score 5 runs in the 11th inning of the game on Tuesday night, and then they gave 2 of them back before it even ended. I mean, how do you plate 5 in extra innings and then still give them back? And we're still sitting there wondering, like, oh man, are we gonna have to go another round? But yeah, Ghost Runner, no. Like, how about this? Get the call right next time, and this game would have ended 4-3 in 9 innings. But for an egregiously bad call at the plate.
Oh, that just drives that knife in even farther. Yeah. It's Lord.
And
the thing is like I'm hoping October is better than September because that's the only 2 races we're talking about, and the DNs have opened that lead up to where that's almost not quite worth talking about. So it's really just the NL East. AL wildcard, the Orioles have fallen out of it, so the AL wildcard, that's pretty well locked in. National League wildcard, probably pretty well locked in, I would think. There's just no drama going down the line with these pennant races. So hopefully that they're going to make up for it with a ridiculous October. Samantha, is there anything else here with the baseball pennant chase you wanted to talk about before we get into the NFL?
No, that's it. But you're right. Yeah, we really only have one true type pennant race but I'm hoping, I think this postseason is going to be really fun, really exciting. I am 100% in favor of letting more teams in. I think it's great that more teams will have the opportunity to get in the mix. We've seen it plenty of times. All you got to do is get in. You get hot at the right time. Doesn't matter what seed you are. Doesn't matter if you're a wild card. Like, you got as good a shot as anybody. So I love it. I hope we see some fantastically exciting postseason baseball, unless my team is involved, which I want it to be boring, decisive wins.
I do think I'm going to be paying really close attention to that first round, because obviously we haven't seen this before. We haven't seen a wild card round that's more than a game. So I'm curious how how it affects teams, like the team that advances, how it affects their pitching staff, how it affects how they line up against the next team they play. Things like that I'm looking forward to. Irby, anything you want to add here before we get into the NFL?
Well, just the last thing I'll say is with you guys, the one thing I would say is just keep an eye on that NL wildcard that you were mentioning, Bo. The Phillies are on a 5-game losing streak and playing Toronto this evening, and the Brewers already beat the Mets today. So it is down to 2 games, and it is a favorable schedule for Milwaukee. I still believe, and I believe y'all are the same, that Philadelphia will prevail in that series, but they've got 4 games. They mentioned earlier with the Braves left, so it's not as easy. Philly was in great shape. 5-game losing streaks really do make it a little bit more difficult to move on. So It's getting close again.
Well, I mean, just do what you did last time. Fire the manager and go on a 12-game winning streak. Worked last time. Why not do it again?
Let's be the first team to fire multiple managers in the same season to ignite a winning streak. Hey, if it would work, you do it, right?
Don't mess with the winning streak. Don't do it.
Are you that much of a believer in the superstition that you do that in the playoffs? Going, hey man, look, I'm sorry, you will get a ring, but for us to win this thing, I gotta let you go right now.
Do you have any idea the terrible things that I would be willing to do, like way worse than firing a manager to get playoff wins for my beloved baseball team? Like, I wouldn't fire a manager. I'd fire everybody. I'm the person who said I would give up my draft picks forever to get a World Series, and I wouldn't care if my team stunk for the rest of my life in exchange for 1 World Series. So sure, I'll fire 7 managers if I need to.
All right. Week 3 of the NFL season is on tap. Let's talk about a few of these games here, Samantha, that we're going to see over the course of football Mardi Gras, also known as Thursday to Monday football. Chiefs are in Indianapolis to face the Colts. And I want to start with the Colts because I want to know what the problem is with these Colts, because we talked about it going into the season. It's been a team without a quarterback for so long. They finally go out and they get Matt Ryan, who at the time seemed to be the quarterback without a team, and now they're together and it's supposed to be a lot better than this. What's going on with this offense?
Well, I mean, I think there's a part of me that says, like, look, the Colts have this weird, like, Jacksonville bugaboo. So if they straighten it out from here on out, none of us are even going to remember this. We're just going to laugh about the whole weird thing where the Colts can't beat the Jaguars because they've lost like 8 in a row to them, I think. And then you throw out the tie with Houston as well. But I'm worried. I mean, especially as somebody who was like asked about my long shot Super Bowl pick and was like, the Colts. And now they're 0-2. So that's awesome for me. Please follow me for more betting tips. Don't do that.
You did say long shot.
True. I did say long shot. Somebody else said the Falcons in the same show, so I feel a little bit better about that. I did not have the most like insane pick to this of the group, but so far my pick is not looking too hot. But look, a lot of this is like the offensive line was supposed to be a strength of this team, and they're really, really underperforming. I mean, they've just been absolutely awful, and they have a 37-year-old, not particularly mobile quarterback back there. And also, I mean, you're down. Michael Pittman's been out with an injury. He's your number 1 receiver. He's not even a true number 1 receiver. So the lack of talent on offense around Matt Ryan and Jonathan Taylor is just not very good. And I think that has been a huge factor. And the Simmons defense has underperformed as well, obviously. But if they can't figure that out and get that right, and looking at you, Irby and I are huge Quentin Nelson fans, but right now, everybody on that line is part of the problem there, which is, if you'd ask me, well, what do you think is going to get the Colts away? This is not the thing I would have highlighted, and here we are.
Just put in the French fries. Let's try something new. The one thing we said would never happen in the regular season was French fries together on the line at the same time. Irby, same question to you. What's going on with Matt Ryan and the Colts?
They're freaking us out, man. What's going on? This is crazy. I will say. So the good news. 2014 was the last time that the Colts won both games in the regular season against the Jaguars. So hey, there you go. It's kind of been your trend of win one, lose one, win one, lose one. So yeah, last year it was a painful one that kept you out of the playoffs. So hey, you got it out of the way now. So whatever. The problem that I have is the good side is, yes, all right, 22. You're allowing 22 points a game, kind of where we thought this defense would be. It's the Texans and the Jaguars, not great, but they were road games. The offense, yeah, Matt Ryan, the offense. I mean, it's exactly like you said. It's not what it was supposed to be. The beautiful thing is that this is a 17-game season. There's lots of times. The even better news is, with as crappy as it's been, you're a half game out of the lead. And not wonderful in the division. You are 0-1-1. You're 0-1-1 in the division, but your division still is the Houston Texans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans, who are in a quarterback debate. So, hey, great news. Plenty of time. I mean, this is. I don't want to say you've got a few more weeks to figure this out, but you probably have a few more weeks to figure this out.
That's actually a really good point. I think, like, looking at it, I think I'd rather be the Colts than the Titans right now. Because the Titans have so many problems, so many things that are going wrong. The Colts, maybe not as much. Samantha, let's talk about the Chiefs. They have started off their season about like we were used to them doing, which is starting off a little slow and then coming back and winning the game. At some point, they're just going to have to stop doing that. Their division is a little bit more competitive, and especially when you get into January, you're facing a team that can score as quickly as the Bills can. They really need to start cleaning up how they start these games.
Yeah, and this has been how the Andy Reid-led Chiefs, the Pat Mahomes-led Chiefs have functioned for the most part, and they've been able to get away with it because they have so much talent. But they almost always, this is how it tends to go with them, especially when they're playing a more competitive team, is they will start slow out of the gate and then they will creep back on you. And then the good news is you're never really out of it, right? Like they seem to be able to put up a tremendous amount of points in a relatively short amount of time later in the game. But this is pretty common for them. They did have a very decisive victory, obviously, over Arizona, and jury's still out on Arizona whether they're any good or not. I think most of us are pretty cold on Arizona right now. We'll see how that goes, but I don't really think the Chiefs have been challenged yet, so it will be interesting when they start having to play the tougher parts of their schedule. I'm, again, very cold on the Chargers as well, which I know upsets a lot of people, but guess what? I wasn't wrong. So I think the Chiefs are not getting the sort of decisive wins that I would hope out of a matchup like that yet, but it's early. The Chiefs are fine. They're going to be fine. But you're right, Bo. You get into, I don't know that you want to get in a boat race with the Bills again. Like, it might not go your way next time, not the way the Bills have been playing.
No, they can. The Chiefs scored, 13 seconds in that playoff game? The Bills could probably do that in half that time, the way that offense is clicking right now. Irby, how about you? What are your thoughts here on the Chiefs and their slow starts?
Yeah, this is going to come down to coaching here. Good coaching is going to look at the game that happened Thursday and say that was not good. Kansas City was not the better team that night. Los Angeles was the better team. Los Angeles played better. Los Angeles, unfortunately, threw a 99-yard interception return for a touchdown, and that really was the difference. I know there are multiple other
broken ribs in his defense. He has fractured rib cartilage or whatever. Poor guy.
I did hear today he said he is feeling more comfortable. Like, okay, that doesn't really answer the question, are you still hurt or not?
They killed him off.
I'm feeling better. But yeah, and that's the thing is it's not 100% Justin Herbert. you needed that interception in the fourth quarter to make a difference. I mean, it's just a couple things like that I didn't like. I thought Los Angeles played the better game. But, hey, Kansas City, you know how you win divisions? You know how you get to this point that they've been to? You find ways to win these games. And so all that negativity I want to say about not being the better team, you found a way to win the game. And that's big. And, hey, got the job done. So, but good coaching, you're looking at this, and you're going to sit back and you're going to go, this is not a good day. How do we grow from here? Yes, it's a win, but let's not get excited.
Samantha, anything you want to add there before we pick this one?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's pick them.
All right, who do you have? Who's winning this one?
The Chiefs.
The Chiefs?
Yeah, I just don't. I think the Colts are going to be able to straighten themselves out a little bit, but I just don't think this is the week for it. I think the Chiefs are going to continue to evolve.
Irby, how about you?
Yeah, same pick. Taking the Chiefs here. I do believe the Colts can right this ship. I do want to put a little asterisk on what I said earlier about them. They do need to kind of figure it out pretty quick after this. October 23rd, so we are talking barely 5 weeks from now. They will have played 5 of their 6 divisional games. That's right. They'll play both games against the Jaguars and both games against the Titans, and they end the season with the Texans. So huge streak coming up. They really do need to put this together after this week with the Chiefs.
Sometimes I think these NFL schedule makers are drunk. I'm also going to take the Chiefs in this one. I am not quite as sold on the Colts turning this around at all as you guys are, but it's certainly not going to happen this week against the Chiefs. At least I don't think so. Now, if I'm wrong, you can hit me on Twitter and let me know that I was wrong, and I will gladly wear that. All right. Bills are at the Dolphins. All of a sudden, Samantha, this one's got a little bit more juice than it did even a couple of days ago, right? You have the Bills who are riding high, everything's clicking for them offensively, and you got the Dolphins who just had this massive come from behind win. They're down 21 points at the half in Baltimore, come back and win that game. And we know that the Dolphins can obviously score points. We just saw that on Sunday. They'll be able, I think, to chip away. This Bills defense is going to be tougher than when they faced on Sunday, the toughest one they faced this year. So they'll be able to get points, but can they get enough points to keep up with what the Bills are going to do offensively?
Yeah, the Dolphins are looking frisky, which is cool. I mean, that's fun. I like what Mike McDaniel's doing. I think he's probably, of the first-time head coaches, he feels like the most promising one. So far, I was very impressed by the in-game adjustments that he made, which is where we really see a lot of first-time coaches fall down on the job. And he did a great job, and he came back and got the upset. And credit to Tua as well, who had a very, very bad week last week. In terms of pre-game pressers, but went out there and proved himself. However, as much as that was a nice performance for them and a real shot in the arm, I think, for the Dolphins, and it puts them certainly into the wild card conversation, the Ravens are not the Bills, particularly defensively speaking. The Bills, obviously, a bend-don't-break defense, so there is going to be some scoring, but they don't give up a lot of touchdowns. And they certainly don't have, the Ravens already injury issues again. I mean, we all sat here saying this can't possibly happen to them 2 years in a row. And it's already looking a little bit rough over there. Some late game strategy problems as well out of the Ravens, mistakes that I just don't think you'll see out of the Bills. The line is pretty big on this game. I think it was at 5.5 or 6.5 or something, which would make me a little bit nervous after the Dolphins' performance. But I actually think that the Bills probably can cover that as well. I don't really think it's going to be that close. They're just giving away my pick, but oh well.
I mean, I already knew where you were going with this. Irby, how about you? What are your thoughts here on the Dolphins coming into this game?
Hey, credit the Dolphins of what they've done. You have the games that are in front of you, and you have to take care of what's in front of you. We're not so certain about what we're going to have from New England this year. Baltimore made sure that they lost that game, things like that. But still, they got the job done. The Dolphins, you had to put the points on the board. It's a great comeback. I love what Mike McDaniel said afterwards, that he told his players before the game that I hope you guys deal with some adversity today because I want to see how we react to adversity. And then he clarified, said, I just hope next time they don't take it so literal, putting yourself in that big of a hole and then coming back. But, hey, it does wonders in a locker room. It does wonders for a team, and you know they're riding high. At home, being called the underdog. I mean, you're the underdog at home against this. They are loving it. It's going to be a wonderful atmosphere. Sadly, it's the noon game, but whatever. It'll be good. But to the point that Samantha made, you're not playing the Patriots. You're not playing the Ravens. In years past, that's been great, but it's different. This Bills team is different. I don't like the what we've seen from the running game or lack thereof running game from Miami. And I like, if you want to get into a shootout, Josh Allen versus Tua, I mean, I think that's the easiest pick right there. No offense to him, but I'm not picking you.
No. No, not even a little bit. Samantha, let's pivot over to that Bills defense, particularly containing Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill had back-to-back big plays against the Ravens. The second one tied the game. Well, pinning the extra point, But how are the Bills going to be able to go about containing Tyreek Hill and keeping him from just going off the way he did against Baltimore?
All right, so we have a little bit of experience with this because we have seen the Bills defense which was fairly similar to the current defense a year ago in the postseason against Tyreek Hill when he was on the Chiefs. So we know essentially what the move is there. And you're talking about like a lot of like too high stuff. So theoretically, yeah, Bills bend don't break, too high shell. That defense was built to go against the Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill Kansas City Chiefs. So you've built a defense that is essentially meant to stop people like this guy specifically. He's on a different team now with a worse quarterback. And again, like, no offense to Tua, but he's no Pat Mahomes, right? So you've created an entire defense which is meant to stop this guy exactly. I mean, Brandon Beane is on record saying that's what they were doing a year ago, and they've only gotten better in the year since then. And now you're talking about the same receiver, but a different quarterback, a lot of other things different about that offense from the Kansas City offense as well. So I would be more confident in the Bills going up against him than just about anybody else because it is exactly what they are designed to do, only they have a little bit of an advantage because Patrick Mahomes isn't part of the equation anymore. So, yeah, I mean, and that's the trick with the Bills, right? Like, you don't give up the big play, and that's what they had to rely on a week ago to beat Baltimore was the big play. Bills are pretty good at containing that. So they'll okay about this, but it's going to be a good test. It's going to be a good test. Can the slightly tweaked Bills defense contain a guy who they were built to contain and didn't quite get there a year ago when he was on a different opponent?
Irby, same question to you. Bills, Tyreek Hill, how's that going to go?
Beautiful thing for what Buffalo's getting is early in the season, you're going to get the opportunity to find out. With so much left in the season, if it doesn't go well, you've got the time to adjust. And the one thing that does caution me, and I'm not going to repeat, I agree a lot with what Samantha was just saying, I won't repeat it, but the one thing in this particular game is keep an eye on these injuries mounting up for Buffalo. I know questionable usually means, yeah, we'll just make a game time decision, but it's Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, and Dane Jackson. Very thankful Dane Jackson is okay, and that was not that serious of an injury, but still, all three of those guys dealing with Poyer's a foot injury. The other two are dealing with neck injuries. That's a big chunk of your secondary that's banged up right now, and you've got this Dolphins offense coming in. So one thing to watch there, I do believe in Buffalo. I do think that this team was built, like you said, to slow down offenses like the Dolphins are building. So great test for both sides, but keep an eye on those injuries.
All right, Samantha, anything to add there before we pick this one?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, who do you have?
Bills all the way.
This is one of those.
I'm a new member of Bill's Mafia, by the way. In case you don't know. My adopted team. But that's not why I'm picking them. I don't trust the Dolphins. I don't trust Tua. Although if you want to see something fun, guys, go look at, somebody did a mirror image of Tua, and it's amazing how much better he looks if you think he's right-handed, which shows you how much bias we have in the fact that, like, when we look at a left-handed quarterback, we're like, that looks weird. I don't like it.
I find it hard to believe anyone is going to pick the Dolphins in this one, but here we go, Irby. You're on the spot.
I'm not your guy. Sorry, Bills all the way. And to clarify Samantha's point there, we are not new members of Bill's Mafia. Okay, year and a half. We're a year and a half into this.
True. You're right. I'm a few months into my lifetime devotion to Bill's Mafia.
Okay, yes,
you're
totally.
right. In terms of Bill's bandwagon, we're Josh Allen worshipers. We have been for a long time. So yeah, we're not completely.
Big hands. Big hands.
Oh.
Lifetime devotion to the Bills Mafia. Okay. I'm also taking the Bills because I obviously they're going to lose at some point, but I don't know who they're going to lose to. I don't think it's going to be the Dolphins. All right. One more before we get into our trade of the evening. Rams are in Arizona to play a Cardinals team. Samantha, I think you hit it pretty good earlier in the show. We really don't know if the Cardinals are good or not. They're kind of sending some mixed signals at this point. But here's the question, I think, because there's no doubt that the way that this division is set up to go throughout this season, the Cardinals really need this game more than the Rams do. But here's my question when it comes to the Cardinals, because last year was very much a hot start to the season, and then they went ice cold. The collapse was entertaining for some of us, but it was still, they just completely collapsed and fell out of everything. If they're going to do something like that again, how bad is that collapse going to be? Because they're not playing as well as they did to start the season last year.
Well, right, and part of the problem here is that once is a fluke, twice you start to get worried, 3 or more times is a pattern. And if we look at these, if we consider it as Cliff Kingsbury teams, I mean, the Cardinals did it last year. They also did it the year before. And the Cliff Kingsbury teams were doing this in college, too. So that's a pattern, right? That's enough evidence to suggest that this is what happened. So, look, for the record, I like the Cardinals. I want them to do well. So I'm not just, burying them. I like Cliff Kingsbury. I have some questions about his abilities, but I like him. I like Kyler. I want them to do well. So don't come for me, Cardinals people. I want them to succeed. But yeah, it's concerning. And you're right. They don't look as strong out of the gate as they have in years past. Now, the good news is they've acquitted themselves pretty well against the Rams over the last couple of years. So that's helpful. But, yeah, I mean, if you're counting on a collapse late in the season, and I think that what we've seen out of Cliff Kingsbury-led teams suggests to us that we should at the very least be bracing for it, if not expecting it, then you got to jump out there and look really commanding at the beginning to have any shot at all, right? And I don't think that's what we've seen out of the Cardinals at all. I was not impressed with their performance against Kansas City, and while they've done well historically against the Rams, and the Rams do not look great either at all. But, you mentioned it's probably a must-win for the Cardinals. I don't think it's a must-win for the Rams.
Yeah, I don't either. Irby, how about you? Where are you at with the Cardinals at this point?
I don't think the Cardinals are a good team right now.
Wow,
what we saw, sorry. I mean,
no warm up, no nothing, just boom.
No, they're not. Can they get there? Sure, absolutely. The pieces are there, but right now, no. This feels like it's still part of the collapse. And, you got your tail handed to you week 1. And you should have had it handed to you week 2. It's just that Vegas, for some reason, felt like they needed to stop playing football. and lets you back into that game. And there's no other way to say it. 20-0, they just let you right back in. And so I don't. Now here's the good things. Back to what I've said a couple times. It is early in the season, plenty of time. You're tied for the division lead right now at 1-1. So there's some other good news. All 4 teams are 1-1 in the NFC West. The last thing that really does matter here is that this is not the NFC West of last year. And it's crazy how quickly is with the team, what we saw last year with those 3 at the top, Arizona, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, that was 3 heavy hitters. And we talked about it when leading up to the season that we might see the same thing. Well, we're not. We're not seeing the same thing. The only thing going great right now that we've seen is that Jimmy Garoppolo's at the head of the San Francisco, and getting thrust into a game led them to a very decisive win last week against Seattle. But that's it. This is, who knows? I mean, you got Stafford 2 games in, he's got 5 picks. You have Arizona just getting their tail whipped for 3, 4, or 7/8 of the season. They show up in the fourth quarter and get the job done, come back and win. They're 1-1, but I mean, not looking great out in the NFC West. Fortunately, it's everybody not looking great, so 10 wins might be enough. I think it'll take more, but right now how it's looking, you may only have to get to 10. So Arizona, not great right now, but plenty of time to get there.
Let's talk about that Rams offense. You just brought up Stafford. Let's talk about them here, Samantha, because Sean McVay came out after week 1, the week 1 loss to the Bills, and he admitted that the offense just they couldn't find their sync. They couldn't find their rhythm. Obviously, they found it last week. They put up some serious points against the Falcons, but that's also the Falcons. Is there concern with this Rams offense at this point?
I think so. I'm concerned about the defense, too. I mean, you let the Falcons creep back on you. The Marcus Mariota
Also
Falcons.
true.
What are you doing? Oh, my gosh. I mean, I have some worries about them on both sides of the ball. Super Bowl hangover is very real. Ask the Bengals about that.
Oh, yeah.
It's a rough go. Obviously, the Rams not nearly as much trouble, and I do think the Rams will be fine. I'm not sure we can say the same for the Bengals. That is a topic for another day. But, I'm worried about this offense. Cam Akers has been ghosted the Rams, or something weird is going on with the run game. It's upset a lot of fantasy owners, which I don't care about at all, because I don't care about your fantasy team.
No comment.
But Bo has them on that. My husband also has Cam Akers, and I'm sorry for both of you, but I just don't care. It's clearly upsetting to a lot of people, but what should be upsetting everyone is that, Stafford is always good for a pretty solid number of face palm. What was that guy thinking? Brandon Whedon style laser eyes interceptions. Absolutely. But there have been a lot of them. We know he's got some injury issues. I don't love that. The receiving core has not looked great. Allen Robinson, who was supposed to be the lead. Don't worry. We've replaced Bobby Trees. We've replaced Odell. And he was pretty much invisible in the first game of the season, and they got embarrassed against the Bills. So, Sean McVay, absolutely. If this is something that can be tweaked from a coaching perspective, I'm sure he will manage it. But right now, they look a little lost.
Yeah, a little bit. Irby, how about you? Rams offense.
Definitely lost. Yes. Definitely concerns here of finishing a game. I mean, that was crazy. And I know that the 31-27, okay, you have late in the game, the block punt by Atlanta for a touchdown, with the 2-point, turned it from a 14-point game to a 6. And then the safety as well, adding 2. So you got 10 points right there that essentially the special teams and gifted to you. But it was around that too. I mean, it was in between the Atlanta touchdown, a long drive, but you settled for a field goal. You're in a good lead, everything. But late in the game, when it was time to get the job done, the Rams weren't. And it was, a 3-and-out. Like you came off of that block punt. And it wasn't even a 3. That was a fumble. My apologies. You tell it was 3 plays. It was a 3-play drive, but it was a fumble in there. And so it's the not knowing how to finish. And that makes no sense whatsoever when you're talking about the team coming off a Super Bowl. So that's what's the most concerning for me is it feels like the Rams didn't know how to finish. It felt like week 1 that they didn't know how to play football against a really good team. So, again, these are outliers that early in the season, you've got time to correct. Same division, plenty of time to figure things out in this division. But that's 2 big red flags in 2 weeks. So it makes me wonder going in of what's going to happen this week.
There's a few teams that have that particular dynamic of what's going to happen this week. We don't know. Samantha, is anything you want to add here before we get into our trade segment?
No. Let's make our picks.
Oh, let's make our picks first. You're right. Okay. Who do you have here? Rams or Cardinals?
I'm taking the Cardinals. I think the Rams are the better team, but I think the Cardinals are going to get the win this week. I just think they need it more. They want it more. The Rams are lost. They will find their way back, but it's not going to be on Sunday.
Irby, how about you?
I'm going to agree. Taking the home team, I think Arizona, how high you're riding off of that comeback against the Raiders. Yeah, I like Arizona at home here to eke out a win over the Rams of Los Angeles.
I am also going to take the Cardinals in this one because, again, it's like we've been talking about. The Rams look a little lost, and I don't think they find their way either, Samantha. I think you nailed it right there with that one. All right. So one more thing before we wrap up this week, we have our Let's Remember Some Trades segment. Now, Samantha, just for those that are first-time listeners to the program, you want to quickly run us through what this segment is?
Yeah, I think we got some new folks around here. So, yeah, we've had a number of interactive segments to close out the show here. And this is Let's Remember Some Trades. So what we do is every week I go back and find a baseball trade that occurred in the past, and I'm going to give these guys one hint, which is the name of one of the teams involved, and I'm going to tell them the year that it happened and the time of year. So it was winter meetings, trade deadline, spring training, what have you, and then they're going to see if they can put the whole trade back together on air. And you can, of course, play along at home. We'll give you some time to figure it out. See if you can get there before these guys get there. So this is, we have the rule that we put in place, and we're dating ourselves a little bit here, but we took trades back to 1988 because that was when we felt like we were old enough to at least remember, have a fighting chance of remembering them. So it starts when we were little kids. So if you're older, you'll probably do better on the older trades than we will. If you're younger, you'll probably do better on the newer trades than we will. But anything between 1988 and 2021 is fair game. So this week, we're not going back too far, actually, since we have some new folks around here. I thought we'd pick a more recent trade, give everybody a little bit better shot to jump out there and get this one before these guys get it. So, all right, this trade took place in 2015 on July 28th. So this is effectively a trade deadline deal. And one of the teams involved was the Colorado Rockies. So, anybody have any questions, opening salvos, early thoughts?
I would just say that there's no pressure because it usually takes Irby and I about 10-15 minutes to get this trade right.
Yeah, some of these come easier than others, guys. I mean, we promise we'll give you time, and these are hard. They're hard. These guys are pros, and it sometimes takes them a little bit of time to figure it out. So, yes, while we all hem and haw over it, and we throw some hints out there to see if we can help them along. Hopefully, we're helping you guys along as well.
All right, Irby Rockies 2015. They were.
Well, I'm gonna go out on not a hard limb, and I'm gonna assume that the Rockies are the sellers here.
Yes, the Rockies are the sellers. Good job.
I think there's been 1 year in their existence where they weren't.
Good to establish early who the buyer is, who the seller is. Every once in a while we went into a weird one where there really is no buyer or seller, or everyone thinks they're the buyer, but this is a pretty clear-cut buyer and seller one, and yes, the Rockies are indeed the seller, as they often are.
Yeah, hasn't really narrowed it down much here.
No.
All right,
so
one
Rockies
team
are bad. They're selling. Ugh.
Are they trading with one team, or is this a multiple team trade?
Okay, so I tried to keep it a little bit simple. Since we have new folks this week, this is a 2-team trade. And guys, sometimes these do get really, really dicey. We've had like 3-team, 12-player trades. This is a 2-team trade. There's a number of people involved. There's 6 guys involved in this, actually. But it is only 2 teams. It's pretty straight up, and it's almost all major leaguers at the time. So most of these guys are going to be familiar names for pretty much everybody, especially because some of these guys are still in baseball, actually, since this trade is not too far back. The guys who would have been the sort of prospecty or, new to MLB guys who are going back to the Rockies are still floating around baseball. Now, whether they're still on the Rockies, I'm not ready to tell you that just yet, but we'll see how you do. So what direction do you guys want to go this time? Are we trying to figure out who the other team is first? Are we trying to figure out who the headline player is? What do you guys think? We've kind of done this a little bit differently depending on sort of where these guys are at on what they think they know about it.
Irby, I think maybe let's go try and figure out the other team.
Yeah, that always feel like I have better success at that point.
Oh, you definitely do.
Look, and this is definitely one, guys, where I think that if you get the other team, you will at the very least get the headliner and probably at least one of the guys going back the other direction.
Okay.
You will recognize it as the blank insert person's name trade once you figure out who the other team is. Or you can just try to figure out who the Rockies were trying to sell in this particular year. So that's another strategy that we've worked off of upon occasion. Who would the Rockies have been trying to move at this particular time?
Yeah, that's where I like it is I'm trying to think through the Rockies over that time, and I feel like I've got it narrowed down to like 4 different trades.
Right, and
like
so
all they were doing.
Pre-Story and Arenado and those guys. So we have to go back a little bit further than those.
This is pre-Blackman as well, or early Charlie Blackman.
Yeah, it's not Charlie Blackman.
No.
Yeah, we're going back to somebody who, the way that you would think of this player as the tail end of sort of a different wave of MLB stars. He's not really in that group. He would be in the group that precedes it. So when you think about who were the big names at the time, he would have been a part of that group rather than the 3 players who you just referenced are sort of part of the next wave of notable MLB players. This guy is of a different, I don't want to say generation because he's not that much older. He is 37, I believe, now. But certainly, I think somebody who we would lump in with a different group of people if we talked about players of blank era.
Irby, the one name that is just stuck in my head here is Troy Tulowitzki. That's the name that's stuck.
Bo.
Did I get the player?
You sure did.
Got the player.
Oh, well done, Bo.
Good.
I was just starting to think. I remember Carlos Gonzalez, but I remember that was near the end of Cargo. But Tulowitzki, well done.
See,
Good job, Bo.
I started with Hampton. I was like, no, that's too late.
No,
right? So they're just making the rounds. Yeah, Tulowitzki just stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Where the hell did they send him, though? That's the question.
What? Come on. I've got 4 names in my head.
Do you?
Yeah, I know the 2 pieces going to said team. I know who the team is, and I know 2 of the offensive pieces coming back. I don't.
There's only one offensive piece coming back.
Hang on, is that when this?
Okay, then I've got the wrong.
That's how Toronto got it.
I know the big one. Yes.
Yeah, you know who the big one is, right? Well, sort of big. Once upon a time, big, not so big when this trade happened, but
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right, so Where?
Hold on. Say that again, Bo. What did you say?
They sent him to Toronto, right?
Yes.
Hey,
Yes,
there you
okay.
go.
Very good. Okay, so Rockies, Blue Jays, Troy Tulowitzki going to the Blue Jays. All right, so let's knock out the Blue Jays end of this first because there's two players there. So, Irby, do you want to tell the people who the other player going to the Blue Jays is, or Bo, do you want to take a stab at it? We could give you a hint.
Those hints never work out for me.
Okay.
Yeah, but they work out for us.
Oh, I know. You guys have all kinds of fun with me on these hints.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is a guy. The guy. Well, I'll give you kind of a big one. It's a relief pitcher, journeyman type. He played for just about everybody. There's one team where I think we kind of think of him as, and it's not the Jays or the Rockies. It's actually the Minnesota Twins. That's kind of what I think of him as. That's where, how when I close my eyes and visualize this person, that's the uniform I see him in. He's also, fun fact, I don't think this will help you, but it's something that everyone should know anyway. He's Pat Mahomes' godfather. He was Pat Mahomes Sr. teammate in Minnesota. So, fun fact, Pat Mahomes connection here. We're tying up the baseball with the football here. But any idea, Bo, who this?
Man, I got the journeyman reliever from the Twins.
Yeah.
There's so many. There's so many journeyman relievers that played for the Twins.
Yeah, and this guy has been around forever. I believe he's 49 now. So I remember him as being old like forever, and it's possible it's because like this guy was in baseball until, well, I guess 2015 was his last year. Yeah, but like we were like kids when he started with the Twins. So he's been around a very, very long time. I mean, he's 50 years old now. So he's busy being a godfather and doing some good charity work in Gary, Indiana, where he's from, as well as in the Minnesota area.
Oof.
And I believe he is a special assistant, which means he doesn't really do much, but you know how teams like to do this for the Twins. So, those guys that get paid a couple $1,000 to show up at spring training and hang out.
Oh, yeah.
One of those kind of jobs. But, Bo, yeah, you want to take a stab at this?
I got nothing on this one.
Okay, sorry.
Come on, you can Bo, think about the Minnesota. Okay, early in his career in Minnesota. Look back, okay? Use your hawk-like vision and look back at those Minnesota teams. And I know you can get that.
LaTroy Hawkins?
Yeah.
There you go! Attaboy!
Let the record show that this is the first time Bo has actually successfly landed on one of the pun on the name hints.
Yeah,
so
you take that.
Bo, you're like knocking it out. This is awesome. Look at you go. All right, so we have completed the Blue Jays half of the trade. Colorado Rockies. What's coming back here, guys? Irby, I know you know one of them. Bo, you care to take a crack at that?
I don't know. I kind of want to quit while I'm ahead.
You want to quit while you're ahead? Okay.
I'm going to cash out my chips.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna let Bo quit while he's ahead because he's done very, very well for himself tonight. Irby's gonna tell you in just a second who the headliner of this going back. This is not a prospect, by the way. This is the opposite of a prospect. This is a salary dump alongside a number of prospects. But yeah, this is a gentleman who had seen better days at this point. Was most notably a New York Met. He did not last long with the Rockies. Unfortunately, got himself into some trouble with the law, and he was DFA'd pretty much immediately in the season following this, and very ignominious end to his career. But he won a batting title. He did win a batting title way back when for the New York Mets. Of course, he sat out the last day of the season to do it. I have some issues with that, but he did win a batting title. So, all right, if you don't have it by now, you're not getting it. Irby, who is he? Who is this guy?
That would be the aging shortstop, Jose Reyes.
Ding, ding, ding. There you go. You got it. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Things were going great for him until they weren't. It didn't end well. So these other three gentlemen are actually all still in Major League Baseball. They would not have been anything at the time. These would all have been prospects. All of them are under 30. They are all still currently part of Major League Baseball. They are all right-handed pitchers. So does anybody want to take a crack at any of them? There's one of them that I would like you two in particular to get. The other two, I'm pretty comfortable handing you if you don't know who they are. But there's one in particular that I would like you to get because guess what? He's on the active roster for your Texas Rangers right now.
Well, see, now we have to get it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, well, you're doing this one, Bo. Go ahead.
Why am I doing this one? I've already cashed in my chips.
He quit. Go quit. He quit. He's like the twins. He quit.
Yeah, I got my 3 wins. I'm out.
I got my dinger and I retired.
The Minnesota Twins of Let's Remember Some Trades. Mr. Bo Reed has gotten his 3 wins. And
oh gosh! So
he was on. I think he was one of your COVID call-ups originally, but he's on the active roster, not just the 40-man. So he's still around. Colorado, Miami, back to Colorado again. Signed as a minor league agent with Texas in the offseason. Does this help you at all? Anybody?
Yeah, and I've got 2 names.
What are those 2 names, Irby?
I don't think it's Dennis Santana.
It is not.
Okay, then it's Jesus Tanico.
There you go. You got it.
Wow. Did not.
Man.
I had no clue he would have been a part of this if you had not said that. Like that. Yep. Wow.
Yeah. So he's had pretty brief career, but he had 2 stints with Colorado in 2019, went to Miami in 2020, Colorado from 2020 to 21, and then Texas picked him up as a minor league free agent in the past offseason. So the other 2 gentlemen, I'm going to give you their teams just on the off chance you got a name you want to throw out there.
I've got one, and I know what my mistake was.
I know it. So yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I do too.
Who I messed him up with?
Yes, I'm almost positive. Yeah, tell me what team are we talking about here?
He's currently pitching for the Yankees.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought. Okay.
The names are basically the same.
Yeah. All right. I think yes, they are. In his defense, that is an easy mistake to make. But that's really funny because I was like, what is he doing? Like, why does he think this? Is he thinking of the wrong trade? Like, I don't.
Oh, yeah.
That's usually not what he does. And then I realized, I was like, oh, I see what happened here. I see exactly what happened. So, Irby, tell him, who's the guy in this trade? Who's the guy you thought was in this trade? In case anybody else out there made the same error.
Yeah, so involved in this trade, a young prospect, probably called up pretty soon after that, would be one Miguel Castro, not Miguel Cairo.
Cairo. As soon as I was like, oh, yep, okay. Yeah, completely understand how that happened. But you powered through. And you figured out which one was the right one. So good job. Yeah, Miguel.
Yeah, doesn't help that they basically played at the same time. Look nothing alike. Shouldn't have had an issue with that, but definitely.
You line them up next to each other. You're never going to confuse them. But when you write their names on a piece of paper or you're playing Let's Remember Some Trades, that is a very easy decision to make. But good job. Way to rally. Got yourself.
Yeah.
Good job. Yes, current New York Yankee pitcher, Miguel Castro. We got one more pitcher in this deal. Irby, you want the team? You want me to just throw them out there?
Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, so this
guy, I've got nothing.
Yeah, he pitched for the Rockies from 2016 to 2020. He was traded in the offseason of 2020 to the Cincinnati Reds. He is currently a Cincinnati Red, which is, unless you're a Cincinnati Reds fan, I'm sorry if you are. Very sorry to you for the way things are going. But the rest of us not paying a whole lot of attention to the Reds. So this one's flying a little bit under the radar. But any final guesses, anybody, or I'm just going to go ahead and throw his name out there and then we'll do a wrap up here. Anybody?
No, I got nothing.
Nobody?
Nothing for me.
This is Jeff Hoffman, last piece of the trade.
Wow.
Cincinnati Red. So
he was he was a pretty highly touted prospect.
He was, yeah. I believe
Okay.
Considered he was like number 14 in pipeline at one point, and things
Wow.
have gone somewhat downhill for him. But what happens to you when you end up on the Reds? Sorry, man. Yeah.
And the Rockies.
and also the Rockies. Well, yeah, in his defense, he spent 5 years in the Rockies/Red system, so it's a rough way to go, man.
I also just signed with the Angels this offseason.
Oh, jeez. Can you imagine? No, I want that to happen because it would be funny, except I have nothing against this guy, so I don't want to do that to him. Poor guy.
Yeah, right.
Pitcher off into Angels purgatory. That's just mean.
He just needs to go out to the Giants and be like, I'll play for free. I just want to get my career back on track.
Right? Yeah. Like, please teach me your ways. Giants pitching coach. Please don't send me to Los Angeles. Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, California.
Santa Barbara. Don't forget Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara, Southern California, Baja, Northern Mexico. Please just pick one name. Love of all that is holy. Angels. Stop this.
We should also add Tijuana to that mix.
Tijuana Angels. Why not? I like it. Maybe that's what we'll call them from now on. Tijuana Angels. Sure. Everybody feels like they need to go to a bar in Tijuana if they have to watch a lot of Angels games. It's been a rough season. So, all right, let's
Plenty of live roosters.
They could use a few dozen. All right, so let's wrap this trade and get you guys out of here. All right, we already told you what happened to Tinoco and Hoffman. Castro, real quickly, Toronto, Colorado, went to Baltimore briefly from 2017 to 2020, was with the Mets from 2020 to 21, and then, as you know, he is now a New York Yankee. Jose Reyes, we mentioned bulk of his career where he won his batting title, where he had his heyday with the New York Mets, 2003 to 2011, also spent time in Miami, Toronto, Colorado, back to the Mets from 2016 to 2018. That was after the DFA that resulted from him getting suspended for 51 games for domestic violence arrest while he's with the Rockies. The Rockies took one look at that and went, no thanks, we've had enough, and sent him packing. But in his second stint with the Mets, didn't really get anywhere. Troy Tulowitzki, of course, mostly a Rocky, 2006 to 2015. He spent 3 years in Toronto, and then, of course, a year with the Yankees. Had that really frustrating year in 2018 where he missed the whole season due to injury. So kind of an ignominious end, I think, for a player who was a really good guy and a real talent who just kind of couldn't get healthy. But he's now an assistant hitting coach and an infield coach at the University of Texas. So that's pretty cool. And then finally, just because it's fun to run through it with guys like this, LaTroy Hawkins, guys, here we go. Minnesota, Chicago Cubs, San Francisco, Baltimore, Colorado, New York Yankees, Houston, Milwaukee, the Angels, the Tijuana Angels, the New York Mets, the Colorado Rockies again, the Toronto Blue Jays. So, yes, Pat Mahomes was godfather. 11 different teams, 12 different stints. He got around.
Yeah, I'd say he did. Wow. Ooh. Irby, anything you want to add to that laundry list of teams? Man.
No, yeah, I've been around. Real quick, just Tulowitzki actually is not returning to the University of Texas. He was the hitting and infield coach the last few years. In a weird situation that I'm curious what's going on, he was supposed to be taking the head coaching job at USC, left Texas to go take that job, and is currently not listed as the head coach for USC baseball. So not quite sure.
Thank you. That's intriguing. We love these post-career mysteries, guys. So if anybody knows what's going on there, please tweet at us and let us know. We love these. This is not quite as good as what happened to the disco balls and fog machines when Carlos Beltran got fired by the Mets. Pretty sure went to Florida with Joey Cespedes, but we can't confirm. But yeah, if anybody knows what's going on with this, anybody who's plugged into the USC or Troy Tulowitzki in general, please send us a tweet, hit us up and let us know what's going on here. We like to know how this stuff turns out.
And
Yeah, he was a fantastic baseball coach, a great hitting coach. UT hitting really took a huge step forward the last couple seasons. So sad to see that one going, but yeah, very, very intrigued to know what's going on in that situation. But wish him the best. And love this one. This is a great one. I will forever mix up Miguel Castro and Miguel Cairo now, but that's okay. That's okay.
Well, the good news is, Irby, when we feel like it, we can turn them into one person. We have done it before with other people because they look too much alike or they perform too much alike. So you know what? If you want them to be one guy, they can be one guy.
I will probably make that mistake going when people talk about, well, Shohei's a pitcher and a hitter. Well, so is Miguel Cairo.
He was a two-way player, kind of, sort of, but he was two people.
Yeah, he's a two-way player.
Probably closer to the Fausto Carmona, Roberto Hernandez version of being two different people.
I mean, it's like Brett Phillips, like relief pitcher / utility infielder. It's Miguel Castro Cairo.
An airplane.
Yeah, exactly.
Brett Phillips, triple threat. But yeah, no, they can be one guy if you wanted to.
I'm going to do, actually Cairo before Castro. So Miguel Cairo Castro. That actually sounds like a legit baseball name.
Rolls off the tongue a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah. I will buy that as the name of a Major League Baseball player, Miguel Cairo Castro. So, all right. It is done. As my dad would say, if you say it for 7 years, it's true. So 6 more years to go, guys. And he becomes one person.
All right. Well, Samantha, you mentioned those Twitter handles. Those Twitter handles are in the summary of the show each week, so you can find that information there. And if you do find out what happened with Troy Tulowitzki, please let us know. I would love to hear the actual way that story is ending. So, oh boy. All right. Well, that's it. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here. Until next week. Watch some baseball. It's good for you.